all 6 of the panelists who've agreed to join us today. It's always wonderful when we have such a willing group of people to step up to talk about such an important topic. So again, just inviting everyone to type their name in the chat box and where you're from, so that we have some ability to have a good understanding of that. So partway through, if our timing is right, hopefully we'll be able to do a brief, quick question and answer, maybe after Michelle Teskey's panel conversation. We'll see how our timing goes, but please feel free as the panelists are speaking, if you think of a question, put it in the chat box and maybe just indicate who the question is to. With having 6 panelists, we want to make sure that the question is addressed by the panelists to which you were meaning it to. So that said, we'll move through the agenda, but before we do that, I think we're going to just do one more quick poll, or another quick poll. And Liz, if you would like to just take some time to launch that second poll for us, please. So this, yeah, thank you. So if you could just take some time to briefly, with a click of a mouse, tell us what organization you work for, and certainly select any and all that apply. And we'll just give you a countdown to 20 seconds or so for that for everybody to get an opportunity to do that. When we have guest panelists or people who present, they always like to know who they are addressing and what organizations might be represented within the conversation. So it's always helpful for people who are either facilitating or guests. So we'll just give that a couple more seconds. Of course, it's no surprise that the majority of people that are joining us today are from senior serving community organizations. That's wonderful. Those are the folks that we want to make sure that we have involved in this very important conversation. And always nice to see that we have some healthcare, government, social services people, and as well justice, housing, caregiving, and of course the Indigenous community and the immigrant services community. Wonderful. So thank you very much for that. We can go on to the next slide, Liz, if you're okay with advancing. Thank you. So just a bit of a background of why we're actually having this conversation today about elder abuse within the family violence context is because, as many of you or most of you know, that November is Family Violence Month in the province of Alberta. And that is very near and dear to my heart because many of you may not know, and some of you may, that 34 years ago in Hinton, my hometown, the first the first Family Violence Awareness Week was launched by a number of very concerned and wonderful and dedicated citizens, and it was adopted into a provincial platform that's a month long. And so the Alberta government website, I'm sure many of you are familiar with that. They have a number of resources that people can use to promote and bring awareness to family violence in general. And certainly the conversation has become a little bit broader to encompass elder abuse as well, which is why we're here today. And so the term "where to turn" is actually one of 3 hashtags that the province is using in regard to marketing and bringing awareness to elder abuse, or pardon me, I'm going to do that more than once, to family violence in the province. So hashtag Go Purple Alberta, hashtag Where to Turn, and hashtag Unmask Domestic Violence. So we've chosen today to promote some resources that can be used and accessed in the province, and using the term "where to turn." So that's why we're here today, and again, thank you very much for joining us today. So next slide, please, Liz. Sorry, I jumped gun there a little bit too. So if you'll give us a little bit of time again, just one more moment, we have the 3rd poll that we'd like you to participate in. Liz, if you'd like to launch that as well. This will be the 3rd and final poll. So if you could, that should be up right away. There it is. So just helping us to understand what level of knowledge regarding issues around elder abuse. So please take a few seconds to just click so we have a good understanding of that as well. And this will be our third and final poll for this session today, and we'll get that all out of the way. So wonderful to see that there's a range of people with different levels of knowledge regarding issues around elder abuse. Wonderful to see that we have some people with extensive knowledge, because we certainly draw on people who have that level of knowledge, and it's wonderful to see. As well, it's always exciting to see people who feel they have minimal knowledge in this area, because that's why we're here, to learn more and to collaborate with one another. The more we can share knowledge, we become a much larger community of practice. So thank you for taking the time to do that. So the next part of our session, then we'll get into our guest panelists. And we do, as I said, have 6 panelists joining us today, and very happy that all of you have agreed to join us for this wonderful conversation. So we'll have an opportunity to ask questions of the panelists. And again, I remind you to type your questions in the chat box if you think of a question that you have. We will have time at the very end of the session to open up for more of an open conversation aspect. But just so you don't forget the questions that you have, just type them in the chat box, and we have some wonderful chat moderators who will take care of overseeing that for us. And then perhaps halfway through the session, if we have time, we'll open up the question and answer portion. So keeping in mind to the panelists, and again, thank you very much for being here. Keeping in mind that we'll try to keep it to 10 to 12 minutes for each section for you to tell us about the wonderful organizations you work for. So that said, we'll start with Stephanie Shard. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Stephanie. So welcome, Stephanie, if you'd like to. And I just want to tell people that Stephanie has, Liz, if you'd like to advance the slide, please, sorry. Stephanie has put together a brief PowerPoint presentation. I want all of the panelists to understand that that was not the expectation, but Stephanie has put together a brief PowerPoint presentation. And so Stephanie, please start your presentation and just tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So as mentioned, my name is Stephanie. I am the manager of Crisis and Navigation Support Services with CMHA. So what that means is that I oversee the operations of both 211 program and our distress line program. So in a very quick nutshell, that is the extent of what I do at CMHA. Do you want to advance to the next slide? And the next slide. Thank you. So here with 211, what I will be primarily speaking about today is our 211 service, as well as our family violence information line that we run. So just a brief outline of 211 if you've never heard about us before. So we are a free service that operates 24/7. We are a confidential service, of course, with the limits of confidentiality with any child abuse or immediate harm. That is a violation of our confidentiality. And then we are also an accredited body. So we are an accredited information and referral service. We're accredited through the Alliance of Information and Referral Systems. So we go through that accreditation every few years. We are a service that connects callers to a full range of community health and social and government resources. We're a tool and resource for service providers to gather information for their clients. So a lot of people will call us directly about their own needs. We often get a ton of information from service providers looking for information about how to help their clientele as well. We are also a part of a national and international network of 211s. So a very fun fact is that we are expanding into the Northwest Territories right now. And next slide. So there we have a multitude of modalities in order to connect with us on 211. So the most obvious is you can call 211. So it's just as easy and simple as dialing 211 on your phone. Very simple, quick number to refer to. We can also have people text us. So if you text info@211, you'll be connected with one of our support services as well that operates 24/7. We also have a chat function. If you go to ab.211.ca, you go to our website and there will actually be a chat box that pops up on your window if you would like to chat with us. And then you can also search around the website as well. When you search our website, you're able to look through our resources that are in our database. So if you would prefer to look yourself, you can absolutely go through our website, take a look at what we have. There's search options. There's also search by location options, search by topic options. So feel free to take a look at that as well if you would like, and get familiar with how that website works. So we do have live answer 24/7 by community resource specialists. So we're around all the time. And then we also have a 24/7 teleinterpretation service. So if somebody's calling in a different language, I will preface this by this is only an option via our phone line. So when you dial 211, we do not have this option for our text or chat options. So at this present time, just a phone option. Next slide, please. So a little bit about how we handle elder abuse on 211. So we have staff that are specialized and trained in crisis intervention, as well as family violence, elder abuse prevention, and senior needs. So given specialized training before they're on the lines for those particular subsets of conversations. We also do link into services specific for elder abuse. So we really try our best to do warm transfers wherever possible, where we're direct linking clients that are calling us to the services that they're looking for. So for example, we have emergent services linking protocols where if somebody is in immediate assistance for help, such as with EMS, or EPS, police response, things like that, we have a protocol in place to link those clientele to those particular people. We also have prevention services that we're able to link to. So an example of this is our program for elder abuse response team here in Edmonton. So we're able to do linking with this program where they are able to better support, assist, and refer to folks that are experiencing elder abuse. So it's more of a very close, warm handoff, where instead of having to reshare their story all over again, we're helping to link that bridge. And then we also are connected with the Yellowhead County Elder Abuse Response. So what this is a linking protocol into the coordinated community response in Yellowhead County. So we offer a warm handoff or link to the service providers in that area so they can follow up with that client. This, again, like I was saying before, reduces the number of times the client needs to retell their story and helps to prevent people from falling through the cracks. So more of just a warm transfer handoff there in regards to that. We're also part of the elder abuse consultation team. There's a few people in this room today that I see that are part of that team. So a shout out to you guys. So this team, we meet with community partners that are in the area. We consult on cases, we discuss best practices and changes within the community. So we're all up to speed on what's going on within our community. So just a very quick overview breakdown of what you'll expect if you call 211. So first thing we're going to want to do is establish rapport with that caller, ask what's going on, what do they need help with. We'll look at assessing their needs. So is it as simple as I need the phone number for the food bank, or is it a multiple assessment going on here? We will really quickly assess risk if they are coming up. So when we're talking about risks, if we're getting hints of there's elder abuse, there's family violence going on, we will do a quick safety assessment about those concerns that are coming up. We'll discuss things like safety planning and things like that for that person. And then once we're through that and we have a good understanding of what the needs are and that we are able to ensure imminent safety, we start looking at how do we support, refer, and provide information to that person. So as I'm sure you all know, there's usually no cases that are not complex. So we're looking at how do we meet all of your needs that are coming up within this conversation. We offer supports for them and then also information about what are their options, what are their choices. then should it be coming up, we'll provide advocacy and problem solving for them. So things in this regard is maybe they have reached out to a support already and they didn't get what they were looking for. Something that we help our callers do is advocate for themselves. So if they've called and been on a waiting list for a very long time, we can advocate for them to call back and see where they are on that waiting list, or if they're not getting a response or not getting information that they should be getting, speaking to a manager or supervisor, things like that, and helping them to understand how they can advocate for their own needs. And then lastly, if it's appropriate for the call, we will offer a follow-up. So in this instance, we can ask them if it would be okay for us to call them in about a week's time. And then we can check in to say, how did those resources go for you? Were you able to reach out to them? If those resources didn't work out for you, what happened and what's going on? Maybe it wasn't the best resource, and maybe we can find something else that may be better able to fit your needs. So that's a brief rundown of what 211 looks like when you do call. Would you be able to move to the next slide, please? Thank you. So engaging as with 211 as a service provider. So like we were talking about already, 211 can help clients navigate their service needs, but it can also be a useful tool for service providers to access help with navigation. So if you're a service provider and you're trying to figure out how to best support and provide direction for your client to help with all of the many needs that are coming up, you can always give 211 a call as well to say, this is what I've got going on for my client. I'm looking for resources in this particular area because that's not my area of expertise. Would you be able to help me find things like that? And so we would be able to help you find different things within the community to help refer that person to. We do have a comprehensive and up-to-date database. So our staff uses this database every time a phone call comes in, and that's how we look for what the appropriate referrals would be. So it's a very extensive database Alberta-wide. And then for agencies to be part of, we need agencies to be part of this database in order to make these referrals. So really, really important to get those agencies on board. And then this ensures accurate referrals are provided. And so as I'm sure you know, through, for example, the COVID protocols and how things have been changing so rapidly, our database has been able to keep up with how often things are changing as places are closing down or changing how they're providing services. We're able to keep our database up to date so we can tell clients that are calling in, yes, this is a service that used to be in person as of a few months ago, but now they've changed online. So this is how you access this service now. So we keep our database as up to date as humanly possible. We also empower clients to access other services for supports beyond what you can offer. So we often know that again, needs are very, very complex. One service provider may not be able to meet the needs of all the things that are going on for that particular person. So we can be that more linking piece to that puzzle where you can provide one small piece of that puzzle and we can help them connect to the rest. So we have a wide range of access points for 211. So we do have 24/7, 3 a.m. something's going on, a client would be able to reach out to us to figure out where the navigation can go from here. So we do offer low barrier access in that regard. Next slide, please. So as mentioned earlier, we also run the Family Violence Information Line. So our staff also answer this phone line. So this is an Alberta-wide number. If you notice, there is no area code at the beginning of this number, and that's because it's a toll-free number for all of Alberta. You do not need an area code for this number. I know that can throw some people off and be a little confused. So this phone line is also a free service operating 24/7, also a confidential service. This line is answered by professional staff with training in crisis intervention, family violence and elder abuse prevention, as well as information and referral. So this is a service that provides safety assessment, planning, emotional support, connection, and service for supports. Next slide. So with the Family Violence Information Line, it's not as easy as calling 211. So it's this phone number that you can reach here, 310-1818. You can reach this number anywhere from Alberta. If you're outside of Alberta, you won't be able to connect with that number, but it is toll-free for anywhere in Alberta, and it's a 24/7 number. This line also has a chat option. This is not through the 211 website. This is through the Alberta government website. So if you go to the link I provided here on the slide, alberta.ca family violence find supports.aspx, you'll be able to find the chat function, and that operates anywhere between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. that our live agents would be able to respond to as well. Again, same thing with our 211 line. This is a 24/7 support that does offer telephone interpretation. However, like 211, this is only offered on the phone line and not on the chat line. So important information to know, especially if you're talking to newcomers that are not first English speaking. That would be helpful information to know. Next slide. So the elder abuse, how elder abuse factors into the family violence information line. So as I was speaking about a little bit before, on that line, we specifically look at safety planning and assessments. We offer much more emotional support than we would on the 211 line, where 211's really primarily, are you safe right now? Here's the referrals we can get you. Hope you all the best. But in family violence information line, we actually take a little bit more time to flesh out what's going on. We look at emotional supports. We are talking about the not your fault messaging. We're providing education on abuse, such as the cycle of abuse, things like that. So we take a little bit more time within this line to be able to help support people and have more of an emotionally charged conversation than we typically do on 211. That's not to say that doesn't happen on 211, but typically this is where more so these conversations are a little bit longer and a little bit more robust on the family violence information line. So we also provide information about their options. So whatever they feel like is best within their options. So whether somebody is wanting to stay in a family violence situation or wanting to flee that family violence situation, we'll provide them with all the options that are feasible for them. If they're choosing to stay, what are the options and what are the safety planning going that factors need to go into there, and if they're choosing to leave that situation or report that situation to police, what options do they have there? So we provide as many options as we possibly can to them so that they can make the best informed decision about what makes the most sense for them. And then we also do connections to services and navigation supports. So should they choose an option of what they would like to do, then we can help guide them through. These are the referrals that we can provide you. This is what you can expect when you call these numbers. This is what this will look like for you. And so we can give them the best information possible about what that conversation is going to look like as they start moving through those steps. And then as I'm sure most people wouldn't be shocked about, with our elder abuse coming up on our both 211 line and family violence information line, we've seen definitely a spike in these numbers since COVID has started. And a lot of these questions are really around alienation and isolation, playing into massive factors into that. And so our role on 211 is to help eliminate that isolation and that alienation by trying to connect them with supports.
That's awesome, Stephanie. I know that if you could advance that, I know you have a question slide in there. We're going to hold off on questions, and I just encourage everybody to type their questions in the chat box. So much information to share, Stephanie, and clearly, you know, we could probably have one session alone on what 211 and the family violence information line has to offer.
Yes.
So thank you very much for that. That's wonderful. So next slide, please, Liz. We have Theresa Sutherland. Theresa, and I'm sorry we are a little bit behind in time, but no pressure. I want you to be able to feel comfortable in sharing the pertinent information about your coordinated community response network that you have out of St. Albert. And with that, I will let you take over.
Well, thank you very much, Charlene. Yes, my name is Theresa Sutherland. I work with SAFE, Stop Abuse in Families. And first off, I want to really clearly establish that Stop Abuse in Families is not a shelter, and we are not a crisis intervention organization. What we do is provide support services for individuals who have been impacted directly by family violence and trauma. And that is very broad. We work with children. We have a child life specialist who basically provides child therapy and youth counseling. We have psychologists on staff who provide counseling services for individuals. They can have 10 free sessions where they can come in and set goals and work on what their next step in life could be. And that could be still remaining in the abusive relationship, but how do they set boundaries? What is the safety plan? Or what are the steps for them to start working towards leaving the situation? We also have a education coordinator who works with young people in the community through their schools, recreational groups, and often they focus on communication, relationships, bullying, cyber and bullying, that type of thing. And then, of course, there's myself, who I'm the Elder Abuse Response Coordinator for SAFE. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on how that was established and what sort of role I play. And then, of course, we'll move on, and hopefully if you have any questions at the end, I'm able to answer them. First off, I wanted to establish that I've been involved with family violence since 1985. I started my career at Wynn House. And since that time, I've had a broad and very unique view of not only family violence, but family violence across the province as I've traveled and worked in various communities throughout the province. So I've got a fairly established understanding. SAFE's background in elder abuse response started in 2008 when the community of St. Albert decided that they had a seniors working group and that they wanted to develop a 3-year plan. One of the 4 goals of that plan was to produce and to address elder abuse. So they created a subcommittee that was formed, and they created vision statements and a mission. The vision was to create a community where older adults, 50 and over, lived in a free from all abuse, forms of abuse and neglect. 50 and older. Elder abuse, often people see that as someone in their later years or who is, still not, no longer working anything, but we see elders as anybody who is 15 and over. The mission was to prevent and respond to elder abuse in a working partnership. And that is the key to creating a community coordinated response. And I'm going to refer back and forth to the CCR, but it is a coordinated response by community partners. So over 12 years, we started establishing relationships and creating standards for individuals who we wanted to work with and who in turn wanted to work with us. So one of the primary things that we did was we created what was called a memorandum of agreement with organizations that we felt would be a good fit and partnership with SAFE. We have to remember that SAFE is strictly the administrative body of the elder abuse program for St. Albert, and it's St. Albert and community. I work with Parkland County, Sturgeon County, and often a lot of little remote communities that do not have services. So, and we receive funding from a variety of places. Some of it is a very small amount is provincial, some is federal. Lots of it is through private donations. But the one thing that we really struggle with is finding sustainable funding because it's always an issue. The other thing that SAFE does is we often will receive grants, but they need to be matched by some other funds. So the matching grants are often through our private donation program. So it is a real buy-in by individuals who understand that elder abuse is a significant problem in their community. So right now in 2020, this is 12 years since we basically started the Elder Abuse Response Program. We have 9 very clear partnerships where we've signed a memorandum of agreement. And those partners are the Covenant Health Geriatric Psychiatry. We have St. Albert Community Village, St. Albert and North Edmonton Home Care, Stop Abuse in Families, the St. Albert RCMP, the St. Albert RCMP Victim Services, St. Albert Seniors Association, Sturgeon County Community Hospital, and St. Albert Primary Care Network. all of these individuals, we work in partnership. And so I'm going to talk a little bit in the future here about how does those partnerships work? How do we glean the expertise from these individuals, and how do we make decisions? I am simply the coordinator. I am simply the person that brings the issues forward and that seeks out information and then helps guide the individual who is seeking out the strength and the resilience to move forward. So those are our official partnerships, but we have many unofficial partners. We have pharmacists, we have doctors, we have FCSS, we have bankers. The official ones have signed a memorandum of agreement that allows us to talk a little bit more intimately about the individuals that I have come forward, but also that have very clear standards and expectations of decorum, such as confidentiality, sharing of information, falling within the FOIP and Health Act, all of those things. The other unofficial partners don't follow those as clearly as we would when we meet. So what happens is monthly, when an individual calls SAFE, they receive contact from me, and they will give me their story. And they will say, this is the situation, this is where I'm at, this is what I want to do. Or sometimes we don't even hear from them directly. We hear from a neighbor, from a business in the community, a doctor, the hospital calling us and saying, well, we have this situation, what can you do about it? And we work to connect supports and direction for that individual to help them through the situation and to provide them some safety and security. So CCR, or as a community coordinated response, is so vital. It's so important that we all work together. Right now, in 2019, I can tell you that we handled 61 new cases, and that's for St. Albert and area. We provided referrals to over 88 individuals and families. So 61 is the people who come and who need more immediate core services, and 88 are above and that when they're calling and simply need referrals to support agencies and direction on what to do next. We had 61% of our clients were from St. Albert, 33% were from Sturgeon County, and 6% were from other areas. We need to remember that 8.9% of older adults in Alberta experience one or more forms of abuse. And abuse can be sexual, physical, emotional, financial, cultural, religious, and I'm probably missing one or two in there, but I have to admit I'm a little bit nervous. We delivered presentations to over 429 community members. And that's a key part of being a member of the community coordinated response teams, is that we're out there to educate our community as well on what is elder abuse, how does it look, how can we help, where do we go from there? We work with over 27 partner agents and agencies, including health and community and law enforcement. Again, building those relationships so that we can move forward together in trying to address an issue. They're very complex. They are very time-consuming cases, and they can be very draining. But when we work together, we each take a little piece of it and we move forward. So what does that look like? When I was starting to do this presentation, I thought, okay, how do I show, or how do we talk about how do we really work in partnership with other organizations? Is it simply that we talk about a case, or do we all take roles? And really, in our collaboration group, we take a role. Each one of us takes responsibility for something. And so I'm actually going to present you a case that happened in this community. I've changed names and some of the circumstances to ensure that the individual's privacy is protected. But I wanted to talk about Frank. Frank's neighbor called. I spoke to him directly, and he was very concerned about his disabled neighbor who was very nonverbal and who seemed to be very left alone for great periods of time. He had very horrible mobility issues, and this neighbor was very concerned about him. The neighbor didn't know this person's name. And he didn't know a lot about the caregivers who were helping him, but he knew something just wasn't right. He informed me in our conversations that the caregivers seemed to go out every Thursday night and left this individual alone. In this conversation, the neighbor also disclosed several other key factors that made me go, we need to look into this a little bit more closely. So it's, again, a complex case. So we brought all the team together and we started to do some planning. So the first thing that we did was I sought out the RCMP that we work with, and they did a wellness check. And again, we did the wellness check on a Thursday evening because the neighbor had indicated that this individual was always left alone on Thursday nights. So that Thursday, the RCMP went by, knocked on the door, and nobody answered. He had no way of accessing the home. He had no other further information. So he called me and said, I didn't get through, Theresa, but I will keep doing a drive-by. Later that evening, they met up with somebody who was going into the house. So they stopped, chatted with him, and it was the home care nurse or caregiver who was going in to provide medication for this individual. So he talked to the home care provider for a few minutes, and she openly allowed him into the home. The RCMP officer wandered through the home. He met with Frank, who was living downstairs, very disabled, indicated the stairwell was very narrow, that Frank didn't have any aids in his bathroom, and generally was how he felt uncomfortable with what was going on, but there was nothing criminal that he could do. So again, we started gathering information. So obviously he had bumped into a home care aide when he went into the home. So immediately we talked to the home care provider who was on our team as well. And you have to remember that we don't talk about a specific case by name. We use generalizations, but when you live in a smaller community, it doesn't take very long to figure out who you're talking about. And home care was aware of this individual, was aware about some of the circumstances, but needed to speak to a supervisor so we could talk more openly about what some of the concerns were. Shortly after, I received a call from the hospital, and Frank had been brought into the hospital. He was dehydrated and disclosed that to a nurse that he was being pinched and slapped. Again, there was not enough for criminal charges, but the hospital was concerned enough that they contacted me. I was already aware of the file. Further to that, the hospital rehydrated him and sent him home in a cab. Again, happened to be a Thursday night. Thursday night, nobody was home. The cab driver was not comfortable with having this individual alone in the home, so brought him back to the hospital. Hospital was able to track down the caregiver and provide, and then the caregiver said, okay, I'll just meet him at home.
Theresa, it's
Yes.
Charlene. Sorry, can I just, and I want to hear this story so much, and I think it really resonates the importance of a CCR. I just have to move us along because we have other speakers. So if you could kind of summarize. Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's fair. That's
it's
totally
riveting.
fair.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, that's fair. So again, we had the RCMP, home care, a neighbor, and now the hospital calling. Eventually what happened was this individual ended up in the hospital. He was malnourished, and he was suffering from atrophy because he wasn't moving around a whole lot. His caregiver or his guardian didn't live in the province, didn't want to think about moving him out of this home. He had been there for 31 years and wouldn't listen to the fact that there was some significant concerns here. When he was in the hospital wanted to make arrangements for Frank to move into assisted living. The guardian, no, absolutely not. He wanted him to go back to there. So we weren't able to convince the guardian right away. So then we brought in the Office of the Public Guardian and said, what can we do? And they said, well, it's a long drawn out process. And I didn't think we had enough time to just draw this process through. So I spoke to the guardian himself and reminded him of what his responsibilities of the guardian were. And then I put him on notice that all these organizations and individuals were watching. And if something happened to Frank if something happened to Frank, we would take it back to him and make him responsible for what occurred. That changed his tune. Suddenly he was like, oh, I didn't know I could be held legally responsible. And it was like, yes, you can be. Within 2 hours, we had the hospital calling us and saying, hey, Frank's guardian has made a change of heart and he is now being moved to assisted living. If we hadn't worked in partnerships with one another, and if we hadn't communicated clearly, Frank would have continued to live in an unsafe home. That's what it's about, communicating and making sure that vulnerable citizens in our community are looked after.
That's awesome. And that's exactly, that's a wonderful story to explain the importance of CCR's coordinated community response models. So thank you for that, Theresa. And please, if you have questions for Theresa, again, type them in the chat box and we'll address those. So thanks again, Theresa. So the next person that we have in our panelist list is Michelle Teskey, and she is a continuing care counselor for Alberta Health Services Home Care in Innisfail. So Michelle, please start your presentation.
Good afternoon. I'll keep this short and sweet. A lot of things have already been covered already. I'm actually going to start with how often we are usually engaged. So I'm a registered social worker in the Central Zone. We have continuing care counselors, and most of them are social workers. In zones outside of the Central Zone, this role is usually filled by a social worker as well. So quite often we're involved when somebody comes into crisis and comes into acute care. And then we plan for them to leave with home care needs. The thing I know we'll add what home care does, a link in there and a little brochure, but there we go. Thank you. So home care does a lot of actual care. They help with bathing, they help with medication, all the typical things. I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with it. In our area, we're able to do wellness visits as well, because we know some people are just teetering on the edge of not being able to live in their home. With regards to seniors abuse or elder abuse, I think one of the biggest roles we play is first having eyes on the situation. Like everybody said, these are complex situations. Quite often the person involved it may be due to somebody's not being able to care for that person anymore, but thinks they can. With, let's say, a senior, I've seen a fair number of financial concerns as well. And so we really need to look in at supporting the whole family and engaging all those supports in their life. So we're able to go in and chat with them. I am not involved with every case that comes through home care. I get referred by the nurses when they see a need for me. One of the things I do is work with our with everyone to make sure they have their paperwork in place, such as a personal directive, enduring power of attorney, things like that, because that seems to help to really reduce some problems for the, I'll get to your question, sorry, reduce some problems when it comes up to especially finances. Who's going to make the decisions? Who's got the finances? Things like that. Our big push too is as well, is caregiver supports. We really want to make sure our caregivers are supported. We find that at times when the caregivers, there's some abuse going on, it could be not necessarily intentional, but maybe a lack of education around dementia and how that person is changing and how their behavior, the person they're caring for, it may not be an intentional thing. With regards to your question about wellness checks, it's not really a check, it's our home care visit. So they don't really have a medical need per se, and we can't do this for everyone. We would like to, but when we've got some really isolated seniors who need just some minimal supports with health concerns, maybe medication, or we just want to do a wellness check on them, have somebody come in for a few minutes, be able to chat with them, help cut up vegetables or whatever type of thing is what I refer to as our wellness visits. The other thing is we want to look at if that family needs respite care. So again, sometimes our caregivers just burn out, and respite care can be that the person, let's say the caregiver is going in for surgery, and so they're going to be unable to care for the person for 2 weeks. Then we look at formal respite care in a care facility, but we also have respite care where it may be every Thursday afternoon for 2 hours. We have a healthcare aide or a nurse come into the home, stay with that person. It lets the caregiver leave the home and be able to have some time to do what they need to as well. One of the things we see as well is with cognitive changes. So our clients quite often are slowly having decreased cognitive capacity, and at times that leads them vulnerable to financial abuse. So, but again, by having eyes on the person, we can really kind of keep an eye out on that and help them prepare if they need to move. So when often we're engaged when somebody comes through home care, I work under the home care umbrella. So the person has to be coming through home care. We have a central access number in central Alberta, but the easiest way to look at home care if you need home care would be to call 811. A good thing, 1 second, Jill, I see your question. We are option, right? So I will chat with you later, Jill. I see a private message. Sorry, I get distracted like a squirrel when things pop up on my screen. But with regards to 811, we do have a dementia care unit or line that connects with our Alzheimer's Society to be able to help people with that. And the dementia line really is for caregivers to have an understanding about how they can support the person and what the process is like. I often connect with others in our community, and each community we know who kind of does what. I connect with our faith groups, I connect with FCSS, our CMP, victim services. You know, we all kind of get together and again, just share our resources without disclosing client information. We also, sorry, the question about what is the dementia line? So it's under 811. If you call 811 and you're having concerns or questions about somebody with dementia, they will set up a file. They will talk with Alzheimer's Society. They'll see what supports they need. So I hope that clarified that for you. And the other area we work with quite often, again, is the Office of the Public Guardian Trustee. If somebody, for example, is not being well cared for, quite often they need to come into a facility, and we end up assisting with that facility and then helping to try and make the costs fit and all that other stuff. So again, I'm trying to be really short and sweet, so I hope I've covered everything, and I will turn the time over to Charlene if you have any questions.
That's all really great information. Thank you so much, Michelle. I think that what I'm hearing you say is that, you know, you two have a bit of a collaborative process within your community or your region. And I think that we see that that's such a crucial part to helping seniors out in our community. So thank you for that information and the information about the dementia line through 811. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. And sorry, one last thing too,
Sure.
I think we all kind of know our community services, but the other option for people, if they're not a home care client, is to check with the PCNs, the primary care networks in your area, because quite often they have social workers. And the other thing, sorry, I just wanted to mention is quite often the clients I deal with, they have trouble accessing these services. That we have so many great services, but maybe they don't know how to use a computer or they're nervous about phoning people. So I have the ability to go in and help them fill out the forms, to have conversations, to have support. So I feel like I am able to bridge between, you know, our wonderful services and that person at times, especially now with the isolation that's occurring, and people quite often don't want to let us into their homes as well, right? So
absolutely, another really great point. I often refer to us that do this work on the ground as dot connectors, and so that's what that looks like for me too. So thank you again for that, Michelle. The next person in queue is Detective Alfred Ma, who is affectionately also known as Alf Ma. So Detective Ma, thank you for joining us today, and please start your presentation.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to turn on the chat here. Yes, I won't take too long. I'm going to dummy down my presentation here so everyone else can get a chance to speak. But the Edmonton Police Service hasn't been a stranger to elder abuse. In fact, the Edmonton Police Service have been involved and has been collaborating with partnerships in regards to elder abuse for over 20 years now. And originally we did have one member, but since the senior protection strategy came about 6-7 years ago, we've increased 300%, which means we went from 1 to 3. So we now have 2 detectives that investigate the complex cases, one being myself. Detective Zili, if you work with her, is the other. And we have one constable that works with the Senior Protection Partnership team. And the reason why we have 2 teams is because oftentimes these investigations are so complex. And this is actually being very optimistic, but we would say about 1 out of 5 investigations results in charges, criminal charges, okay? And we're busy because we can't make that determination until we get to the very end of the investigation. And these investigations could span over 6 months to 12 months. So after a year of trying to pull every possible piece of evidence together, we sit down and do an assessment and we evaluate whether we have enough for a charge. And oftentimes this involves a Crown prosecutor for us to consult with. And if it doesn't have a charge, if we don't have enough for a good charge, we just spend a year doing that. But this is, the type of investigations we investigate because of the complexities, issues with cognition, and of course, usually during a span of time, if it goes long enough, but seniors, sometimes they pass away. So that's why we have the Senior Protection Partnership. And that's a partnership we've had for quite some time. I know there was a bit of a name change before. It was called the Elder Abuse Intervention Team. We collaborate with multiple agencies, including Catholic Social Services, Covenant Health, SAGE, and Michelle will be speaking about her agency later on, and of course the City of Edmonton. The reason why we collaborate specifically with these agencies is because we pinpoint 3 of the major issues with seniors in distress or seniors that are abused. Number 1, anything to do with justice or legal is where police steps in. Anything to do with social issues is where social workers could assist and refer. And of course, anything to do with health, cognitive, mental health, or physical health, we have nurses that are on our team as well. And oftentimes when these files don't result in a criminal charge, or even when they do, there's always room for follow-up and making sure these seniors don't get caught in that repetitive cycle in the abuse. Normally, some of you guys are working in rural areas, and so I'm just going to put this out there, whether you know it or not. EPS is quite known to be, and we want to be known as an innovator when it comes to elder abuse. So we are constantly supported in learning, conferences, education, so on and so forth. And we do get quite a few files here. And in rural areas, sometimes it's very easy for RCMP, and I'm not knocking RCMP, but we get this got it a lot. It's quite often that they sometimes see, let's say, a power of attorney issue as a civil, and it's not a criminal offense, so they don't further investigate. If you ever think or suspect that it could be criminal, because there are little hidden things within the criminal code that most policemen don't really know because they don't work with these things all the time, please either call me or email me. And I think if you need the number, our host will have my contact information, but please contact me. There's quite a few cases where one of the nurses or social workers kind of suspected, well, we called the police, they said there's nothing they can do, it's civil. And then when they contacted me, it was a different case. And I got in touch with the RCMP member and walked him or her through the investigation, and it was new to them. So you know, because we do this a little more often than some of the police agencies out in certain rural areas, you know, it could easily be kind of lost in the shuffle. With EPS, we've been trying to get involved in a lot of education. So that's why we have a City of Edmonton contact and a partnership. We do a lot of community outreach. I think it's only important as far as what people know about elder abuse and what help they can get. Oftentimes we've worked with our public relations. We've put a few commercials out. We call them PSAs, public service announcements, talking about elder abuse, kind of giving the public information, how to recognize it as well. We've also tried to be involved with different community groups as well, like EACT, the consultation team, and also different programs out in the community. And we try to just let the community in itself, not just the seniors community, know that, yeah, you know, this is an issue. We have means to, you know, deal with these issues, and it's just a matter of them letting us know. Going forward, just lastly, I just want to share the fact that going forward, we're constantly trying to improve how the system works and how streamline some of these systems and processes. So some of you guys may or may not know, we finally got the 2 assigned Crown prosecutors to work with our unit. And the reason why that's important is because if oftentimes these files get lost between 3, 4, 5 different crowns. So you consult with one crown, that's not the Crown prosecutor that gets it. And every crown has a different way of going about how to prosecute something. So we've had many times, and this is not just us, we've talked with Calgary as well. They used to have this issue, but they have an assigned crown, but Edmonton finally got 2 assigned crowns, and they're learning right now. When they go in front of a judge, they could articulate certain situations, not just from a criminal perspective, but from an elder abuse perspective, because that changes the scope of the entire situation. When you're able to articulate why something is what it is. The other thing is we're trying to continue to partner with banks. We understand with provincial banks, they've been really good, like Service, ATB. It's sometimes really easy to investigate financial elder abuse cases, which is a lot with those banks because they have their own rules. The tougher ones are more the private banks where the head office is out in Toronto, and you know everybody kind of has their own way of doing things, and there's a lot of red tape. So we're constantly trying to partner with these banks and have a better and build a better working relationship with them to improve our financial investigations. And of course, finally, we're continuing to work with the government of Alberta, trying to change certain acts. And it's not like it's anybody's fault. A lot of these acts, like the Power of Attorneys Act, has been, it was written over 20 years ago, and they didn't realize some of the issues that came about 20 years later. So we're hoping to make things better. And I know constantly we're getting questions all the time. Will things change, or when will it change? But you know, I think it will take time, and we're just going to continue to work towards that. And I think that's it. That covers pretty much what I'm going to say.
That's awesome. Thank you, Detective Mon. I just want to tell you that now that you've offered yourself up like that to people in rural Alberta, I can't guarantee you won't be the busiest person in the province in the next little while. So thank you for,
no worries.
Thank you for your willingness to collaborate like that. And I'm speaking from my own personal perspective. Yeah, I can only imagine how useful that is for people in rural Alberta to be able to have someone like you to tap into from time to time. So thank you very much for that. It's awesome. And thank you for the work you do. So next up we have Pam Burns. And so Pam is, she wears a lot of hats and still has great hair. So there's that. So Pam is representing today, or she's coming from the perspective of the Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council. So welcome, Pam. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlene, and thanks for your humor. Glad you still have some. I know you wear multiple hats as well. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Pam Burns. I am here today wearing the hat of the Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council. I come from a social work background. I've got about probably 25 years under my belt, and only 5 of those years have actually been with older adults. So I do certainly feel like the experience that I've had working with children and families still actually kind of, there's a lot of overlap. So I think that's putting it all together is relevant and important to the work that I'm doing today. So the last 5 years, as I said, I've been an active board member of the Alberta Council. Currently, I'm the acting chair. So I just wanted to say on behalf of the board, I would really like to thank CORE Alberta and all of those on the Community of Practice Organizing Committee. I know how much work goes into these kinds of things, but all very valuable to others around the province. So again, thank you for inviting us to be part of this panel. I'm going to give you just a quick snapshot of the evolution of the Alberta Elder Abuse Awareness Council, and then I'll move into the current work and the strategies that guide us to the work that we're doing today as it relates to increasing awareness and supporting communities to address elder abuse. The Alberta Network began in 2002 with a group of professionals around the province who started working together to increase awareness for elder abuse. So things like World Elder Abuse Awareness Day on June 15th, launching of a website, organizing elder abuse conferences, developing informational resources and toolkits that were then put onto the website. Those are just some of the ways that the awareness for elder abuse was worked on back at that time. In 2016, we became a registered nonprofit society, and so we evolved from a network to a council. So we currently have a full board member, or full board of members. We have, a variety of different representation from around the province, as well as some diverse professional backgrounds and experience. All of us are volunteers. We meet monthly for board meetings, and then we have some additional subcommittees, which I'm going to mention a little bit more into the presentation. Additionally, we do have representation on, at our meetings from the Ministry of Seniors and Housing, and that's Lori Terrian, which she's on the call today. And we also have somebody from the Solicitor General. So these, having these relationships really keep us connected and work in partnership with the government of Alberta. So that's helpful to the work that we're doing. The vision of the council is Alberta's older adults are valued and live free from abuse. And our mission is that we are a council of Albertans dedicated to increasing awareness and supporting community response to elder abuse. So talking about, kind of our related to this vision, the vision and the mission, the current goals that we kind of are focused on right now is increasing the awareness of elder abuse and equipping Albertans with the ability to address elder abuse. So some of the ways that we do this is through the program It's Not Right, Neighbors, Friends, and Family. Hopefully many, if not most of you, are familiar with that. We do offer, it's bystander training for elder abuse. So we've worked in the area of program development to try and grow that across Alberta. And we also support a community of practice. So something very similar to what we're doing today, but more specific to that program and the growth of that program across Alberta. Additionally, we have what is called the Council Connector. It's a newsletter that goes out to our members, and it's got a lot of current relevant information as it relates to elder abuse. And we also do, we have a World Elder Abuse Awareness Day toolkit that we house on our website that can assist communities in, very easily creating awareness on June 15th. Every year we plan and try and do work that will assist communities to be able to grow the awareness with minimal effort on their part, so that we can also get that to be something that's a little bit more, I guess, pervasive and get the branding kind of out there across the province. So that's an area that we like to, or that we tend to focus on. We do have our website that has a lot of different information on it. There's specific. There's a Getting Help tab that has specific geographical area contacts and services that can be accessed on there. We also have our Facebook and our Instagram. So for those of you that are on social media, please feel free to find us on there and follow us and share some of the information that we are posting on there. We also act as a knowledge broker that informs, educates, and connects communities to information. And so, as I said, we oftentimes are using our website to do that. Additionally, on our website, we do like to house informational tools and resources. So I think, this has been already mentioned earlier today, that there really is just not one organization that can help in situations of elder abuse. That there's all kinds of pieces. As I listen to everybody else's presentations, there are familiar pieces to my own community, which is really comforting, actually. We don't necessarily do things in the exact same way, but the outcome is often, or the outcome looks very similar. So I guess my point is that, there are definitely things that are happening and tools and resources in your communities that you're using. And if we can use the council website to, house some of that information so that it can be accessed by other people around the province, we certainly welcome that. So, I would encourage you to go, if you haven't been or you're not familiar with our website, go on, have a look. And if you do have anything that you would like to house on there, just by all means, send it to us and we can look at putting it on there. We also look we also do training opportunities. So I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about that, but we've got a few things on the go right now. We've also just recently started talking a little bit more about case management support and system navigation. Again, a theme that we've already heard about today. These are very complex issues requiring multiple disciplines to address the issues, and we all need to work together. And so it's not something that I don't think you can, any one organization is ever going to be able to assist with an elder abuse case. That it is, that multidiscipline approach is just it's a deal breaker. It really does have to exist. Moving on to just an area of, again, sustainable funding. I think, Theresa, you brought this up earlier too a little bit, that, we are, focused on sustainable funding, some staffing, board development, membership. Something that's recently changed for us is that our membership, we used to have a fee and we no longer do. So our membership is free. You just need to go to our website, sign up. As I mentioned, you will get the newsletter. Additionally, I wanted to mention today that we do have subcommittees. So we've recently just established 7 different subcommittees. Quickly just let you know what those are. So those would be in the area of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. We have a marketing promotions website. We have a It's Not Right Neighbors, Friends and Family subcommittee, sustainability, recruitment nomination, membership, and training conference committees. These are subcommittees of the council. We do welcome that any of our members who are interested, passionate, got some time, got some energy, got some expertise, that want to be part of those subcommittees, get in touch with us, let us know. I don't think I know that those subcommittees are not listed on the website at this point, but they would be, but you can certainly reach out to us through the info address, or I'll also include my contact information in the chat box after, but and also the info email address for the council as well. But again, we all need to kind of keep the snowball rolling, and there's lots of good expertise and skill across the province. And so if we put it all together, I think it's going to mean it's improved service and response as it relates to elder abuse for older adults in Alberta. So please get in touch with us. The other area that we have been working strongly in is just the relationship with the government of Alberta. We're, along with them and other partners, we're always looking at how to be a part of strategically addressing current and emerging trends in the area of elder abuse. So we do have a board member that sits and represents us on the Impact. So for those that are maybe not familiar with Impact, it's a provincial collective that works in the area of domestic violence and sexual violence. disciplines. So our board member that attends that provides an elder abuse lens to ensure that, abuse across the lifespan is recognized. So that's an area that we're currently working in. Obviously, we are partnered with CORE Alberta and very happy to be having that partnership. The aging population are served by many different disciplines. So having the ability to link aging and elder abuse is a fabulous, great partnership. And that will advance safety and well-being of older adults in Alberta. So we're happy to be in that partnership. And lastly, I'll just mention the Canadian Network for Prevention of Elder Abuse. Myself and Michelle Markham, who I believe is speaking next, we are both board members of the Canadian Network for Prevention of Elder Abuse. Again, if you're not familiar, please check out the website. There is a hub of Canadian resources on there, lots of good research, a lot of good webinars. They do their own sort of national WeAd campaign. There's a ton of information and resources on the CNPE website. So again, shout out for that. Please have a look. They're also very active on social media as well. So if you're not following them, you might want to do that. So really quickly, I'm going to talk about our current project. We do have a project manager as well as a project manager assistant who are both working very diligently in trying to advance some of the the work of the council right now. So we did, I don't know if many people saw the educational needs survey that we did in August. We sent that out and we are using that as a guide to choose the training topics that we are providing. Right now we have, there's a training called Taking Action Against Elder Abuse. This has been adapted to be offered virtually. It's a training that was offered by the government in past, and we've done a virtual adaptation to it. And I believe that the next training is November 30th and December 1st. I don't know for sure if there's still room on there, but for those of you that get the core newsletter, the link to registration is in there as well. But again, you could also contact the info address and ask any questions as it relates to that. Also the It's Not Right Neighbors, Friends and Family, again, virtual training, and there's some program development and support around the province happening with that currently. So hopefully within your area, it's something that's happening. If it is something that's happening in your area, please jump on board and be a champion and jump onto that team and grow that within your area. If it's not, and you're curious about it, again, reach out to us and we can help you, look at what that could look like to get started in your area. Additionally, there's some work happening on a resource. It's going to be a guide that will help individuals through, I guess, help individuals to be supported and I think some intervention tools as well for elder abuse. So it'll be a bit of a resource guide. So I think that's going to be, I don't know a whole bunch about that one, but I know it's in the works. And then lastly, we are involved in the Ministers Advisory Council. So, in participation with government level conversation around, having some input into how the government is addressing elder abuse. And so we're really excited and glad to be kind of involved in that level of conversation, because that's where, some of the larger changes are gonna happen. So I'm going to wrap it up. For those in the meeting today that are not already a member, I would invite you to visit our website, take advantage of that free membership that I mentioned. With this, you would have access to the monthly newsletter, the training, the workshops, and other relevant information that we do pass along. And, one of our core values is that there's no one organization that can address elder abuse, and that collaboration is key. We encourage members to get involved in the working subcommittees, as well as to promote It's Not Right Neighbors, Friends and Family in your own community. Please join us in having a collective voice to address elder abuse in Alberta. As I mentioned, I will put our contact information into the chat box. And so if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer those.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Pam. Great information. And if anybody has any questions for Pam, please put it in the chat box. It looks like we're doing not too bad for time. Michelle, you're up next. It looks like we might go maybe 2 minutes over 3 o'clock, so bear with us if we go a couple minutes over. But Michelle, if you'd like to please start your presentation, we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
I'll be super quick. So I'm Michelle Markham. I manage the Senior Safe House, which is a shelter operated by Sage Seniors Association. Sage Seniors Association is a senior serving social service agency in Edmonton. It combines the traditional senior center activities, recreation, leisure, that kind of thing, but also with social work. We have a health services department, do some guardianship, trusteeship work. We're the largest center in Edmonton. Our shelter has been around 21 years as of last month, and the shelter came about as a result of collaboration. The team that Alf mentioned, that was the City of Edmonton, Edmonton Police Service, the Victorian Order of Nurses when they were around back then, and geriatric psychiatry created a response, community response to elder abuse, and the social worker with the City of Edmonton realized quite quickly that a shelter that would be appropriate to serve the needs of older adults was missing and needed, because the domestic violence shelter is not always, it's a great resource, but it's not always an appropriate resource if we're talking about somebody who is dealing with multiple health issues. We're talking about a man, or just that the different complexities that come when the person who's harming you is your adult child often. So our shelter was formed then. We, in terms of responding to abuse, people either call us directly or themselves. We get referrals from hospital social workers, from concerned friends, family members, other domestic violence shelters, other community serving organizations, and through the Seniors Protection Partnership, which we're a member of. We also provide consultative support to community partners, including domestic violence shelters. And I noticed that we have somebody from A Safe Place on the meeting today. So sometimes our shelter cannot meet the safety needs of an older adult because we're not staffed 24/7. We exist within a seniors building, and so we have to take level of risk into consideration. So we have had circumstances where an older woman is in a domestic violence situation, an intimate partner violence relationship, and the risk is quite high based on the danger assessment. So we will support that person being kept safe in a domestic violence shelter, and then work very closely with our colleagues in that shelter to navigate those systems that are particular to older adults, such as getting pensions or applying for seniors housing, that kind of thing. We are really clear. We need to, when we do our assessment, to determine if our agency, if our program is the right fit, we need to talk to the older adult, have that conversation. Often we'll get calls, and I'm sure the rest of you do as well, from concerned citizens about their neighbor or what have you. And I just had one just before this meeting, and very concerned about their friend, and rightly so, but their friend does not want assistance, and fair enough, they're allowed to live their own life. So it's really important that we talk to that older adult and see what it is they want, and do they want a shelter? And if they don't want a shelter, where do we plug them in for those services that they need? We are very, very, very clear that we are not assessing to determine if that older adult is the right fit for us. We're assessing to determine that our program and service is the right fit for them. And if we are not the right fit, we will connect that older adult to the service that is the right fit, whether it is our colleagues down in Calgary at the Kirby shelter, or outreach supports, that kind of thing. We also are really clear when somebody's in our shelter that we're not meant to be all things to everybody, that there needs to, and that we're not the long-term sustainable solution. So everything we do happens in collaboration, whether it's with housing providers, home care, community geriatric psychiatry, Alberta Health Services, addiction and mental health, you name it, we've probably collaborated with them. Housing First, Homeward Trust, all those different organizations. So yeah, collaboration makes the work easier. Our shelter has 7 independent units. We do not use a congregate living model. The shelter was created with feedback from older adults, and they were very clear that that would work, that model works the best. So self-contained units were 60 days stay, but we will go longer if the circumstance warrants it, meaning we're not having, things are complex and we're not, situations aren't being resolved. We would never send somebody out of the shelter when there's still work that needs to be done to ensure that they're transitioning safely into the community. In a given year, we serve 35 people on average, a third of which are men, and a third of which are Indigenous. Most of the abuse happens from adult children, grandchildren, niece, nephew, and of course we help people with spousal violence as well. So that's us in a nutshell. Sure, I'm rushing because I want to make sure that we have time for questions.
That's awesome, Michelle. Thank you very much. And I'm thinking, you know, and I'll address this a little bit earlier or a little bit later too, in a couple of minutes, talking about the next input session or the next session that we have through CORE, and that will give Michelle or all of us a chance to get to know what the seniors, the SAGE Seniors Association has to offer us as well, but I'll get into that in a second. So thank you very much for that, Michelle. That was quick, but very in-depth, and I appreciate that. So just the next slide, thank you, Liz. So we're just coming up on 3 o'clock. We have a couple of more minutes left, and so I haven't seen a whole lot of questions unless I'm missing something. I haven't seen a lot of questions in the chat box. So over the next couple of minutes, if you do have a question for any one of the presenters in particular, please put it in the chat box as well. Maybe Liz, how are you feeling about just opening up the phone line or the lines for a minute and a half or so and just seeing if anybody has any verbal feedback or questioning that they'd like to have?
Absolutely, yeah. Please feel free. You can click the hand icon if you'd like to, or you can just hop on the mic.
Sure, so we'll do that. So if anybody has a question or a comment that they'd like to share with us, please just put your hand up using the little icon, the little hand raising icon, and we'll just give you about 10 seconds to respond to that. And if we're not seeing anything, Michelle Markham raised her hand.
I just have a quick question for Stephanie. Stephanie, is the 310-1818 number going to replace the Seniors Abuse Helpline number? So it's just
no,
one?
not at all.
Oh,
They're
okay.
completely separate numbers.
Oh, okay.
The Seniors Abuse Helpline is answered by our distress line folks.
So Stephanie, not to put you on the spot, can you give us, are you able to speak to what the differences would be between the 310-1818 line and the Seniors Distress line then? What kind of services might one offer over the other?
Oh, certainly. So the Seniors Abuse Helpline that is run through our distress line is more of a supportive listening conversation in regards to how that differentiates between 211 and the Family Violence Information Line. So Family Violence Information Line is really geared towards how can we address your immediate safety right now, what kind of risks are coming up so we can help you safety plan, and then what are the referrals we can give you. Whereas the Seniors Abuse Helpline that's run through the distress line is more of a supportive listening conversation where we talk a bit about what's going on, allow them to get it off their chest, and then we have a more supportive conversation with them about what type of emotional support do they need right now. We can be a listening ear for them to support them in that moment through that immediate crisis. So I would say a Seniors Abuse Helpline, emotional support, Family Violence Information Line, referral driven. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Thank you very much for that clarification.
Absolutely.
So Theresa asked Michelle if Sage Safe House will receive folks from outside of Edmonton, and Michelle kindly responded with always. So thank you for that. And then Lyndall Casa has asked the question, will there be additional training dates for the Taking Action Against Elder Abuse Zoom training, as the November 30th and December 1st sessions are full already? Pam, can you address that?
Sure, I just did it in the chat, but
Okay.
yeah, just you know what, I don't have the dates off the top of my head, or I am not even actually 100% sure if there are dates, but if anybody is interested in that, please let us know. You know, given that they are full, that is a really good sign, and so that would be an indicator to us that we need to look at additional dates, and we'll try and make that work. So if people are interested, please just send an info or an address, or sorry, an email to that info address, and we can sort of have a look and keep track of that. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Pam. Liz, could I get you to just forward the next, thank you, to the next slide. So just what I wanted to just wrap up here with is that what I've heard today, and I think I'm hoping what everybody else heard, was with these wonderful presenters, and again, thank you very much to the panelists, is that there are places where people can reach out to, and there are places where to turn in the province and in communities should seniors find themselves in situations of abuse. From law enforcement to health services, there's some amazing programs going on. And the key word that I've heard woven throughout all of these panelist conversations is collaboration. And again, I will continue to advocate for those CCR models for responding to elder abuse. So next slide, please. So the core group is an amazing platform for us to share this collaboration. And you can, if you are not a member of the core group, through the online website forum, please take time to go into corealberta.ca and join. There are some wonderful groups and discussion groups that you can join that interest you for sessions just like this. So please take the time to do that. Next slide, please, Liz. And then just wanted to remind everybody or mention to everybody, and this is what in reference to my comment about Michelle, on November the 24th, we will be doing our next session through the Core Alberta platform with regard to elder abuse, an introduction to the 4 elder abuse shelter models in Alberta. And I know, Michelle, I'm pretty sure you're going to be one of those presenters for that too. So we'll get an opportunity to find a little bit more out about what SAGE has to offer, as well as a presentation by Kirby Rotary Shelter in Calgary, and then learning more about the shelter models in Red Deer and Lethbridge as well. So please put that on your calendar, register early, because we like to know how many people are joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure to be with everybody today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you again to the amazing panelists. I hope you didn't feel rushed. We certainly could spend a copious amounts of time picking the brains of all of you. And so thank you very much for sharing your expertise. Reach out to Liz or any other one of the folks who have shared their email address here today if you have any follow-up questions. And I believe, Liz, you'll be sending out some information to follow up as well.
Yes, Thursday we'll send out a follow-up email with the slides and with the information shared, including contact information and the recording link.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Liz, for doing all you do. Thank you to the team through Core Alberta. Thank you to our chat box moderators. And again, thank you to all the panelists. You did an amazing job. Couldn't do it without you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Bye, Lori.
Thanks,
Bye.
See you later.